How's it going, boys? Danny here, back with another New World video. And in this one, I'm going to be running you through what I'm running as a tank for New World's mutated expeditions. So I've had a few people come into stream and they're asking what I'm using as a tank, what their friends should be using as a tank, what they should be using as a tank. So here is my tank build. So we'll start off with the gear that I'm using. As you can see, it is a bit of a mess. Don't judge me. On the left hand side, this is actually what I'll be running through the mutations. At the moment, I've got some ice gems, ice wards slotted into there, so the aquamarine gems, and that's because in PvP at the moment I am seeing ice everywhere, so this helps me kind of sustain a bit of that damage. Again, it's not ideal. I'm just testing things out. So on the right hand side, you can see I've got two different gems that I'd recommend. One is the malachite gem, and that is for people like me who are a little bit lazy, who want something to kind of cover everything. As you can see, this will give you 1.9% elemental absorption and 0.6% physical absorption. The idea behind that is that if you come across a dungeon that has a particular elemental, then you don't have to go for one, you can just have something that covers everything. Not ideal, but okay. At the moment on our server, we need to have a void protection, so I can show you here. It's over on Dynasty. You can see if you head into the mutation here, you got void resistance here. Enemies deal a percentage of all damage as void damage. Enemies have void absorption. It's all about void. On death, enemies cast a spell granting other enemies a void in power. There's lots of void. So what we're looking to do really is get some void protection. So this is what we're going to get out of the amethyst gem. 50% of damage is converted to void if you go on the attack, which is not really what we're looking at here. And on the defense is 6% void damage absorption. So we're just looking to get some protection around that particular elemental. So that works quite well. Again, you want to be using, in an ideal world, you'd have different sets of armor, different dungeons, but as we've seen, the main thing to do is have gear score as high as possible. So as you can see, I haven't really reached super high in the dungeons yet. We were around mutation 7, and it's all about the gear score, getting the gear score up. But you can see on here, some of these I have the ancient ward, which was from the Lazarus dungeon. And on our weapons, what we're going for is, I personally run the sword shield, of course, and then either hatchet or hammer. So the reason I love the hatchet is because of the berserk taunt. And the berserk taunt is great for picking up near on all the mobs in the room. And then if you lose that taunt, you've got your sword and shield, which has 2 more taunts to help regain that aggro. Basically, the thing in New World is that holding aggro is kind of tough. It's a bit of a pain, to be honest. You have to taunt, you have to get the aggro, then you have to give them a bit of damage as well to constantly keep the aggro. So having 3 pretty good taunts is a great start. So jewelry is really important as well. I have some pretty good standard jewelry that I was using for near on everything, and I don't have the money or the time or effort at the moment to go out and re-roll loads or buy some new ones. So I've just been gearing up what I have. So I've just got my ring, forgive me, to 600. So on my next set of mutations, I'm going to be bringing up the ring as well. So that's where we're at with our gear. Moving on to our weapon mastery, let's look at the hatchet first, because we're talking about the big taunt there. So it's berserk. Berserk is the main skill that you're going to want. Everything else around that you can build to what suits you as an individual. So berserk, I just took it all the way down. The next skill that I particularly like is rending throw. If I lose aggro again while I'm using my hatchet, launch a hatchet at them. It will keep them engaged on you. It's also very good if, for example, you've got a big taunt and you see a mob in the distance that's not taunted yet, launch your hatchet at it, it'll bring it over as well. And finally, our last active skill is Feral Rush. It's just something that I like. It does a bit of damage. It's kind of a fun skill, and I just prefer that over the others. They might suit you, but this is kind of what I'm running. And again, passives completely up to you and completely what you want to run, and there's not really a right or wrong here. You're looking for kind of semi-defensive, semi-offensive of the hatchet, but the main thing is pulling the berserker, and it's fantastic. Of course, the fire death is something that will really help you out. It's got a long cooldown, but in those kind of scary situations where the healer just can't save you, or you just take too much damage too quickly, you got yourself a little bit of immortality there. Okay, so onto our sword shield. Relatively simple, pretty much the full defender tree on the right. I do like free injustice because it allows me to lose a debuff. So anytime you are full of debuffs, drop a heavy, you will lose a debuff, and that is really helpful in some situations. Of course, you're looking for shield bash, shield rush, defiant stance. Again, some people might decide to take whirling blade. Whirling blade has an ability to rend targets, which is helpful for your team to drop some damage. And that's it. So that's my weapon mastery. That's what I particularly use. That's what I find useful and seems to work quite well for me. So onto our attribute points. What we're looking to do is not have focus on our gear. But the markets in New World at the moment are a little bit so you obviously can go and craft your own, and that's probably something I should have done, but I didn't. So I bought myself some gear. I think focus is on one of my helmets, or I think maybe on my hatchet, I'm not sure. But what we're looking for is full strength and full con, essentially. So I'll probably go up to 300 con and then the rest into strength. So depending on the food that you use, you could go up to 460 con and then use 40 con food to find the rest, and then the rest of your skill points will go into strength, just in case you get an opportunity to support them and do some damage. The rest of your team, you have the ability to do at least a little bit of damage. But as you're pushing through the mutations, if your gear score's not high enough, if you're not fully at 625 yet, there is chances and there is moments where you're going to take a lot of damage if you don't have your shield up. So having as much health as you can is really important, and then the rest of your team are the ones that are going to pop the damage. Like I said, if you have these opportunities where you can support them with damage, do so, but just make sure you do not die. Hold that aggro and do not die. And to be honest, that's pretty much it. That's how we are. That's how I'm running things as a tank, and that's how I would suggest people run things as a tank. Again, a lot of people using hammer. The warhammer is fantastic, and it has a brilliant utility. I absolutely love the warhammer. Obviously, you can run shockwave. You have the taunt ability on there. It's not as wide as effect, but it has the taunt, and obviously you can stun and weaken your enemies with that. But for me personally, I probably wouldn't want to take the build that I use in PvP into the dungeons, and it starts to, not expensive, but it starts to be frustrating, constantly respeccing from PvE to PvP every time. So depending on how you're playing, the hammer might be great for you, or the hatchet might be good for you. Hatchet for me is just working quite well at the moment, mainly because of the taunt, and obviously because I don't need to constantly swap my weapon mastery out. I guess the last thing I could show you is, if you didn't know, the 40 con food is called roasted rabbit with seasoned vegetables. This was quite expensive before because a lot of people were using it in wars. It's getting a bit cheaper at the moment on our server. It's around 40 gold each. Obviously you can go and craft your own and cook your own, but you're looking at around 40 gold each, which isn't so much given the fact that you probably only need one per dungeon. And that's it. That's kind of how I'm running as a tank in the mutations. The biggest thing at the moment, boys, what I've seen is try and find yourself a party of 5. Get yourself as many orbs as you can and rotate those orbs through each other, and you should be able to get to mutation 10 through a party of 5. Everyone's got 2 each. Happy days, you get it done. But it's very important that you learn the dungeon in the first half. The first 1 to 5 is not so difficult. Obviously the main difficulty is getting your humble shards up. If you don't have a high enough gear score, that's when the dungeon's going to get harder. Once you have a high enough gear score, it's going to feel like running the vanilla dungeon again. There's a few things you need to look out for through the dungeons, such as the void circles that will be below your feet, and when you get to the high level dungeons, you start to get a silence on the floor. But it's pretty simple mechanics and stuff that you can get through. We're not going to go through in this one. This is just kind of our tank build, and in the future we'll come up with a video to show you guys exactly how to run the raids if you need to. But as I said, it's relatively self-explanatory. You boys, I'm sure, will figure that out at this point. If you have any issues, any comments, any questions, catch us on the Discord. Come and ask anytime, or leave a comment below and we'll help you through it. Hope you enjoyed the video, boys. If you did, leave the old like, leave the comment, leave a subscribe. I appreciate you all very much, and we'll see you on the next one.